This Church of BL video is brought to you by my friends at the Otaku Market. The Otaku Market has loads of English localized and reasonably priced BL in print as well as merch, and other sundry otaku goods via their eBay page. I recently got a copy of Man of Tango, as well as the first 3 volumes of Only the Ring Finger Knows. They have been a staple convention vendor stop for me for the last few years, and as vending at cons has sort of stopped for the meantime, supporting our vendor friends online will be the very best way to keep them up and running and ready for the redemption arc that will hopefully be here at the end of 2021. But with all that said, on with the video. Scanlations. You may know them as the super sketchy, crazy, illegal way to read BL manga, webtoons, and manhwa for free. In my wee baby years of being a BL stan, probably around 2006-ish, that's been 15 years ago. My god! Anyway, back when I was a young warthog, I would read boatloads of scanlations. I would, and this, I guess, shows my age, would pull up scans on my computer at libraries and save each and every individual page to a file on my computer and take them home to read. I lived in the boonies of Kentucky. We didn't really have internet, and I didn't have a smartphone yet, but yeah, I had so many scans saved to my computer in high school. I also watched ripped versions of anime, and honestly, I had no money or knowledge on how to acquire it legally. I was like 13, 14, I don't know. I didn't understand half the crap I understand now. But now that I'm almost 30, and we do things a bit different up in here. Despite what seems to be popular belief, artists are broke hoes. As a fellow artist and content creator, I can understand the sentiment of spending hours of your life on your passions, only to have them cheapened or outright stolen. You invest all of your time and effort into one thing, only to have the people you made it for make you feel like your content is fantastic, but you as a person do not matter. Make us the content, but we don't want to pay you. You owe us for being your devoted fans, and we give you promotion for free by sharing your content. You should praise us. We deserve more from you without any pay. Please stop. Despite how stupid it may sound to some, I've been through many rough patches in my life where my only solace was manga. I've been in situations where no one gave a damn about what happened to me, and I was in a dark place, and the content that saved me and kept me going was manga. These people deserve not only my praise, but my money. They deserve to be able to afford their electric bill, to go buy a Big Mac, to be able to live off their art that has saved and entertained so many of us. Unfortunately, before the more modern subscription services, it was expensive to keep up on manga. It still is if you're a hard copy collector. Not only was it expensive, about 70% of the BL I personally loved was not localized, and the only way I had to read it was either learn fluent Japanese, Chinese, and Korean, or read fan-translated scans. In this day and age, that is barely an excuse. As somebody who reads a lot of niche manga, more and more of it is being localized. In the last easily 3-ish years, so much of the titles I love that I've only ever been able to read scans of have been brought over. The biggest player in this, in my opinion, is Sublime. They are the freaking madmen of localization. They have so much of the manga I enjoy, followed closely by Seven Seas and Jene. They have all done such a good job in the last 3 to 5 years of seriously knocking the BL game out of the park. But an idea I always had in the back of my head was like this fever dream of a BL-specific streaming service, built like scanlation sites, but with a fee so that the artists get paid. You basically be changing almost nothing functionality-wise, but still get all the content you want and support the artists that are keeping you sane. Kind of like Spotify for manga. So, oh boy, was I hype when my favorite blog, Sareru, who I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, I love you, please don't hate me, posted about this thing called Futakia, who I'm also possibly pronouncing incorrectly. But it's okay, I'm trying. Anyway, Futakia is literally Spotify for BL. However, I'm sure Futakia pays their artists way better. I see you, Spotify. I digress. I actually approached them before COVID to see if they minded me promoting them during the 2020 con season. 2020 con season. Anyway, they seemed really interested in my work, and these magnificent people spent so much yen to send me a bazillion flyers to attach to my handouts that I usually give out during my panels at cons. I spent hours attaching these babies to my flyers. I had a whole big fancy section for them on my main BL panel. I started name dropping them as many times as I could. I love them. I want to help them. So here we are. 2020 was a flop. 2021 seems to also be a flop, and I have turned to YouTube to get my panel itch scratched. So let's talk Futakia and reading localized manga online in general. And before I get into this, I am not sponsored by any of the companies I'm reviewing. Even if one day I do get a sponsorship, you will only ever get honest to the BL gods reviews from me. This is my first real and true video, but I hope over time I can become a reliable source for BL reviews and content online. I ain't gonna steer you wrong. I am absurdly passionate about the BL fandom, which is why I want to share what I know. With that said, let's talk Futakia. Futakia started uploading on my freaking birthday in 2019 to their subscription-based BL manga service. Their first manga being Lover by Hana. I had never heard of or read Hana's work, but oh my god, I love it. I love every title they have on Futakia, and they have quite a few, around 5 or so. In the beginning, Futakia seemed to only put out mangaka I had never heard of, but this isn't a read at all. It was honestly refreshing. When you've been an avid BL fan since 13 years old and almost religiously read a manga or two a day before bed, you reach a level of, oh my god, I have read so much crap I'm running out. So having all of this fresh blood was so rad. I immediately subscribed, and I have been ever since. So with that said, here's some pros and cons to the service. Pros. They upload new content constantly. There was a period where I felt they didn't have much that I personally wanted to read, but everyone has to start somewhere, and they've built a lot since. As of this recording, they have over 240 titles. I absolutely love their rating system. They put little peppers next to the title to tell you how spicy it gets. So if you're in the mood for wholesome, less schmexy time focused stories, they got that for you. But if you're the exact opposite, they also have that, and even have levels of spice. They have spice levels. I love it. The artists they offer are all great. I have very rarely picked something and read on Futakia that didn't suit my taste. Recently, I actually had a high-speed come apart over them adding my absolute favorite Ogawa Chisei title, Red Theater. They're getting some great content lately. I absolutely love their search engine. It is easily one of the most thorough manga search engines I think I've ever used, and it gets absurdly specific. The only thing close to resembling it for me is the search engine for AO3, which was also sent from the nerdy heavens. But the selling point for me is being able to search by completion status. I get in moods where I really cannot stand not finishing a whole story in one sitting. Due to such, during my scanlation days, I always gravitated towards services that offered a thorough search engine that allowed me to only see titles with a completion status of, complete. When I quit scanlation sites, Futakia filled that void for me. So let's talk price. I love how they run pricing. While I'm a big kid with a big kid job and can pay for my own subscription services, I also make money from my small business, and I don't always have the luxury of paying $7 a month for manga. It sounds like a small amount, but when you have a bad month and you're broke, that's a lot of money. Futakia, however, lets you prepay in either 3 or 6 month increments. 3 months running for $18, 6 months running for $30. I can come up with $30 every 6 months. That's like 2 hard copy volumes of a manga per 6 months. And considering I read almost every day, dear lord, is it worth it. Even if I don't read Futakia titles every day, as I'm a collector and hard copies are still a staple for me, it's still supporting artists and the industry that I am very passionate about. It's money well spent. Now, the cons. I'm not the biggest fan of them only being on browsers and not having some sort of standalone app for tablets and phones. I'll be completely upfront, I used to use services like Manga Rock. They were literally the devil, but I digress. They had fantastic search engines, and I could direct download manga to the app to run offline on my phone since I always had issues with stable internet connections. You can't do that with a browser. I don't really have that issue anymore. Once again, big kid with both unlimited 4G and reasonably stable home internet. So that's no longer really a concern. It's more along the lines of Peachy doesn't like change, please let me have a phone app. While I will tout their search engine until the day I die, I wish it had a random feature. They only do descending and ascending from date released, and something I enjoyed from a particularly poor taste scanlation site I used to use was setting it on random. That way I always got a new spread of stuff that I hadn't seen yet. I know for a fact I've lost track of what page I was on, or titles got updated and I got distracted by something else. And there's probably a whole bunch of manga in the middle there that I've never read because I've never seen them while browsing. So having that random feature would be rad. Honestly, those are my only cons. I freaking love this company. They have a partner company, Manga Planet, that I don't really use, but they have non-BL titles there. So if you commonly read the non-BL variety of manga, they have that too, at the same reasonable prices. Moving on from my fan-humaning about Futakia, there is another new player in the BL subscription service game, Yowie Cat. I've only been using them for a short period of time. My free 30 days isn't up yet kind of short. But they started out with a lot of banger titles. And they run for $5 a month, which is super reasonable. Yowie Cat is also really unique. While services like Futakia are run by larger companies that I'm assuming gather their artists and translators and such, similar to how more mainstream companies like Sublime might do, Yowie Cat is completely supported by scanlators. So, immediately red flags. Like, you do what now? I'm in recovery, guys. Don't trick me like that. But let me finish. To quote their About Us page, we are building a bridge between the scanlation community and the manga industry. Using technology to create trust, we're allowing scanlators to translate manga legally and enjoy the revenues. As a reader, you get full access to their site for $5 a month, and by doing so support both the artists and translators who earn 70% of your subscription fee. As a scanlator, or translator in general, and I quote, "No deadlines, no work assignments, and all languages are welcome. You choose what you work on, and you receive 20% of the revenues when your translations are read. Yowie Cat takes care of cleaning and typesetting, but you have the final say on everything. They are quality focused, and nothing gets published without your approval. As an artist, by making your manga available on Yowie Cat, you receive 50% of the revenues when your works are read. It will be translated by our community to multiple languages, allowing your works to be spread across the globe." So all of that sounds rad as hell. I'm not completely familiar with how other sites have been doing it, but it sounds like a great way to get a bunch of scanlator translators on the legal side of the board, because while their work isn't exactly the most humane for the industry, in my personal opinion, similar to how artists they translate are treated, they work hard for close to nothing. The irony is not lost on me. I will note, however, that during the, I think, Just Blue Q&A at FujoCon 2020, they mentioned that they work with scanlators on official visual novel translations, so I don't see why other companies might not be doing that currently, and they're just less vocal about it. I honestly don't know. So having them do the same things they were already doing, but financially supporting the artists they translate, and be on a safe localization platform, I feel really is going to assist in bridging the gap between scanlating communities and the folks in the localization side of things. I cannot discredit what scans did for me. I wouldn't know or have nearly as much yaoi under my belt without them. Before services like these, getting manga was hard. Either titles were outright not being brought over or they were super crazy expensive. But as a fandom, I feel like we're growing and adapting to the times, and I feel like sites like Yowie Cat will be helpful in that respect. So with all that said, pros and cons. Pros. Oh my god, the repertoire. As a newer service, they started out with some real good titles that I was already familiar with. Some off the top of my head: Peak Romance by Morio and Our House Love Trouble by Owal, just to name a few. So I was already sold. I love so many of the mangaka they have, so they got me there. Where they really got me excited, though, was Unohana's Whimsical Jaguar, also known by the title My Fickle Jaguar. Full disclosure, I wrote this bit, and then while looking something up on Futakia, saw that they have it too. But still, I didn't know that at the time. Still counts. I was still excited. Anyway, I've spent easily close to $40 just to get Whimsical Jaguar chapters on Renta. Each chapter is $2 each, with the most recent chapter being $2.50. I'm not caught up on the series, which by the way is so good. Oh my god, I love that manga. Please read it. Anyway, but if I honestly were to buy all of the chapters that are out right now this second, which are 22, I would pay $45, which honestly is cheaper than if you had bought them in print. If they were in print. God, give me print versions. Oh my god, I want it. Anyway, but still, I've already invested $40 into a series I could have just kept up with on Yowie Cat or Futakia for less than half that price, plus other titles on top of it. Granted, Renta is way farther than both Yowie Cat and Futakia, who only have 7 chapters out of the 22 that are on Renta, but if you're willing to wait, financially, it will be worth it. However, while I really like the premise and the current offerings from Yowie Cat, I do have some pet peeves with them. So here are the cons. I wish they offered 3 or 6 month monthly payments, or even yearly. I've been spoiled by Futakia for too long. I just want to be able to send you a bunch of cash every 6 months so I don't have to stress out about not having payments. I may not have that extra $5 next month. I don't know, but I don't have to worry about that if I give you monthly payments. Lack of a decent way to browse, much less a search engine. You can search for titles provided you know the mangaka or translated title, but that's it. They're also browser-based with no app that I'm aware of, and they have like almost a Netflix-style list that you can scroll through. And while I appreciate them, and I like looking at curator suggestions and genre suggestions in general, I just wish they were easier to scroll through. They have a list at the bottom of their page that says Boys Love Collection, which I can only assume is their whole library, but it's mildly confusing if you're seeing everything or not. Not to mention it's really annoying to navigate. Plus, if you leave the browser, you're gonna leave your spot, and you'll have to scroll through the whole thing all over again to find where you left off looking at titles. You can't just search genres either, so like, say you want something wholesome, and you type that into the engine. It gets nothing. Unless that manga had that specific word in the title, it won't come up via the search engine. So you're restricted by the curated lists that they have up at the time. But my biggest pet peeve so far with Yowie Cat is that there is no completion status listed on the titles. I can get past the fact that I can't just use a search engine to filter out what I specifically wanted if I could at least see if the manga was completed or not. And you can't. I typically assume if there are more than 6 chapters, at least the volume I'm reading is completed. There may be more than one volume, and it may end on a cliffhanger, but the volume itself is completed. But with all of that said, don't bite the hand that feeds you. I'm super stoked to watch Yowie Cat grow. They have such a solid start. While I personally am not a fan of the way their page is built, I cannot deny that they have tons of fantastic titles to offer, and the price is completely worth it. Since I've started converting myself to only strictly localized volumes, I very very rarely will read a scan, if ever, because I don't have to anymore. Futakia, Yowie Cat, Renta, Webtoon, Legend, Sublime, Seven Seas, Jene, among tons of others, have worked so hard to increase the amount of artist-supported BL releases in the last 5 years. Some companies still have issues. Looking at you, Legend. But you cannot deny the sheer amount of localized, translated content available to us today. In comparison to when I was younger, it's night and day. There is still mangaka from my scanlation reading days that I have yet to see be brought over. Like, please, someone, please license the Kuroneko Karashi series or the Kimono Hito Omegaverse. Please, God, I need it. There's also quite a few Scarlet Bariko titles I need in my life. Royal Tailor specifically is my favorite. I need it in paperback. As soon as I get the stuff I love brought over, I fling whatever available money I have at it. Please let me have this. BL has been a staple in keeping me sane for the vast majority of my life. I owe so much to BL mangaka. So much. They deserve my money, and I want to support them. Occasionally, if I'm not half broke, I'll buy Japanese copies on Amazon, as I learned fairly recently with the Monster and the Beast author Renji via their Twitter, that if volumes don't sell as well in Japan, sometimes they don't get translated and brought over here. So if I really like something, I'll grab it in Japanese too when I can afford it, but that stuff gets expensive. And I completely get not being able to do stuff like that, especially for manga you can't even read. But please, if you want BL to keep going and survive, give artists your money. There are multiple ways nowadays to do so at a reasonable price. We as fans do not have excuses anymore. I don't even know if we did in the beginning anyway. So yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you have any questions, please fling them in the comments. Play nice. I'm a soft bean. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. You can also support me by supporting my sponsors. Check out the Otaku Market's eBay page for some rad BL deals, among other things. They got lots of stuff. Link in the description and in the comments. But till next time, I'm Peachy, and thank you for attending the Church of BL.